Okay, so I have a little sketch here. This is me walking into part 52 at 10:31 a.m. and my 9:30 case just got dismissed. Death, death to you all, death, death to you all. No,
death to you all.
Never.
Oh.
I would forgive. I would put my tail between my legs and do my motion vacate default. But you better believe I'd be feeling like that ghost man with his face rotting.
You mean in the commercial part of 111 Center Street or anywhere else? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the next edition of Yelling at Gaseous Anomalies. Why, this is almost a law episode, considering one of the actors in it is a famous lawyer.
Really?
We're talking about And the Children Shall Lead. So you'll have to excuse my co-host's little sidetrack into the law there. This is again Captain Matt Ross, and I'm accompanied by Counselor and XO Michael Pontone. How are we doing tonight, Mike?
Michael James Pontone, a squee. That's me. How are we guys? How's everyone doing? Good. Let me tell you, I don't know what to say, everyone. Everyone, this episode, everyone was saying worst episode of Star Trek, worst episode of Star Trek, bottom of the list.
I'm saying it.
I don't know what's wrong with me. I must be taking crazy pills. I thought it was pretty good. I'm telling you, I thought it was pretty good. I compared to the drivel of last week, compared to the and then of Spock's brain. I think that this is a better episode than we've seen in a while, and I want to know where the hate comes. I don't know. It's going completely over my head.
It's the kids. It's between the kids, the rushed story. It's missing something. I do not like this episode. I do not like it, Mike. I can't stand it at all.
I'm the outlier. Obviously, everyone else is like the freaking
obviously, which I don't know what's wrong with you, but we'll talk about it. I just call it the kids. In fact, one of our listeners, Professor Brainy Specs, hey there. He also says, "Oh, not the one with the kids. It's something to watch. It's on. I don't particularly like its execution. It was well intentioned, but I think its execution is poor. This was also filmed before Spock's brain. This is the fifth before Spock's brain.
Brain. What is brain?
So, just off the top, you'd say you would put this on as your series premiere before Spock's brain?
No, I wouldn't say that I would put it on as before Spock's brain, because it is oddly not a ensemble episode. It really is mostly between the Kirk and the kids. Everyone else is kind of like window dressing. But it's definitely, I think, better than Spock's brain by any measure of plot construction. Again, we get into it. I mean, I'll go through. I think it's undoubtedly, at least technically, much better than the other episodes in this season, in that when I say technical, right? Okay, so what's the technical aspects of going into a screenplay? Setup, payoff, things are moving, things happen because something just happened before. It has its flaws. I'm going to get into it. But man, oh man, I mean, it was a good concept. And I've got questions for you about what came first for other media. And again, this is like the fifth time I'm going to say Stephen King seemed to have aped something directly from Star Trek, because one of his short stories basically copies this format. But Captain, I don't want to get ahead of it. Go ahead.
Well, I'm going to tell you a little bit of the backstory here. This was written by Edward J. Lasko, who's not a science fiction writer. Surprise. And he actually had to write this a whole bunch of times. It was directed by Marvin Chomsky, the new player of directors in town. And we'll come to that because he had a special skill towards the end, because he used to work with children on things. This is also famous because the famed celebrity and defense attorney Marvin Belli was the bad guy in this. Marvin Belli defended Jack Ruby. He was also the attorney for Zsa Zsa Gabor and others, and I'll mention that later. Why was he in this, since he's not an actor? Well, we're going to come to that, but Fred Freiberger wanted him for the celebrity notoriety. But as always, I'm going to read you the NBC press release, or a piece of it, from September 10th, 1968. Children, appearing unconcerned at the death of their parents, are beamed aboard the USS Enterprise and begin taking over the minds of the crew, as Captain Kirk, Mr. Spock, and Dr. McCoy attempt to battle an unseen force on NBC's Star Trek episode, And the Children Shall Lead, for Friday, October 11th, 1968. That's the story. It's very accurate, I would say, but it's not exciting to me. It's rather dreary. We start off on planet Triachus, where they beam down and they see all these people dead, one by cyanide poisoning. They run into Professor Starnes, who's lost his mind, who sent out a distress signal. There's like a burn structure in the back. And they find these kids coming out singing Ring Around the Rosie, which I immediately drops it down a point or two for me. But that's our opening. What did you think of that opening?
I thought the opening was cool. I thought it was a very interesting, very profound, shocking image to see all these people lying down dead. And then juxtaposed with the Ring Around the Rosie was certainly jarring. I think it was, Ring Around the Rosie is silly, obviously.
Ring around the rosy, pocket full of daisy, ashes, all come down.
But
Yeah, it's also royalty free.
well, that would do it. But yeah, I don't know.
Where did you get vibes of Stephen King from this immediately from that?
So, did you ever hear of Children of the Corn?
I knew you were going to mention that. That
Sure.
was that. I thought, yeah. Now I think about it. When I think about when I first saw this as a younger Matt Ross, 800 years ago, it was kids. Yeah, but I thought of Children of the Corn as well while watching this. I could see where Stephen King may have borrowed a piece of the concept where evil taking over children, if I'm not mistaken. That's been a while. That's what you have over here. Something possessing children to do something. But you don't know about it in this Star Trek episode. Where do you want to go from on that with the kids?
Okay, so Children of the Corn is this demon entity, Lovecraftian being, that is just merely referred to as he who walks behind the rose, influences the children of a small town to kill all their parents. And yeah, I don't know what to say. It's basically shot for shot, and it's worshiping a higher entity that is manipulating them to at least be complicit with the murder of their parents. It could have used a little bit more story here in the premise. So, for instance, why children? That's never explained. And it could have been one sentence of dialogue from McCoy where it's being like, this ghost, the space spirit, he's transmitting on a hertz frequency of such and such megahertz, and only young people or people under the age of 18 can hear it. You know what I mean? Or are more susceptible to that.
Spock does say that they're innocent.
Evil does seek to maintain power by suppressing the truth or by misleading the innocent.
So there's that very decidedly unscientific. In fact, there's a lot of unscientificness in this entire episode. It's more kind of almost magical in a sense. Although on Triachus, it's a band of space pirates. Arr.
According to the legend, Triachus was the seat of a band of marauders who made constant war throughout the system of Epsilon Indi. After many centuries, the destroyers were themselves destroyed by those they had preyed upon.
I guess, and there was one of them who's lasted thousands of years inside the cave of... from when I'm watching it, when I resaw it for today, I kept thinking about Empire Strikes Back with Yoda saying, "Remember the cave,"
This place is strong. The dark side of the Force.
That's what it looked like.
So
to me,
that was
where
another
Kirk
thing
losing his
that kind of reminded me of it.
Children of the Corn, or
No,
just Stephen King in
well,
general?
Something else. There was I don't know. I guess I'm just talking today about movies that everyone else hates that I kind of love. There was a sci-fi film from the early 2000s or late 90s, I can't really remember, called Ghosts of Mars. And
Oh, that one.
I thought it was a cool concept where like humanity was terraforming Mars, and they always, it was a dead planet, obviously. Nothing's been alive there for a long time. And they find this kind of like tomb that when they touch it, the aerosol, like the stone aerosolizes, and the spirits of the dead Martians infect and inhabit the people. I'm like, I dig that because, again, the Federation is going to thousands of M-class planets, right? And what's the likelihood that even if they're unoccupied at the time, that they weren't once occupied, that they're at some point they didn't exist? And it's just like, well, yeah, and I like, me, I like high sci-fi concepts.
I don't know if I call Ghosts of Mars a high sci-fi concept. I mean, I guess on a real general, it's okay. But it does have Ice Cube, Jason Statham, and Natasha Henstridge. So there. She was pretty. And Jason Statham was, the badass, as per usual. A lot of black leather. I remember that. It's
it's a deeply flawed film. But the point is that you've seen these concepts before. And oh my God, okay, talk about echoes of future Trek, right? Power Play.
That was better.
Same concept.
Well, that's actually a better concept. I was also going to say that Ghosts of Mars borrows, I think, a little bit from Heavy Metal at the last animated vignette. Did you ever see Heavy Metal, the 1979, I think it is, cartoon, rock, horror, sci-fi cartoon?
Quite.
So, it's the same thing where like all evil comes down and lands and takes over people to do their bidding. And this is very similar, except it's children. Quick aside, it's the first time you get to see the UFP pennant. Woo!
Woohoo!
That red flag. Yeah, I know. It's very strange, though. As part of a cost-cutting maneuver, they didn't have other crewmen down there because Roddenberry said it was like, why would the big three beam down by themselves if they're doing like an emergency thing? This was all a very cost-cutting thing. In fact, James Doohan kept saying like you could tell that this was cheap as crap. The cast also did not like it.
I don't know what everyone's talking about. What do you mean cheap as crap? You got an exterior location. You got dozens of extras lying.
No, you don't have
ground.
dozens of extra. You have a couple of them. They didn't have to pay them that much, and there was a couple of things that were cheaply done by reusing sets and effect shots, etc. in this. It just all looked on soundstage, and it didn't look and feel like first season soundstage stuff. I would even argue the Apple, with all of its fake plants, it looks better than this. Even in Spock's brain, going to the cave with the forged steel and other goodies for the primitive men on the surface, I thought looked better and seemed more believable than this tiny 2x4 section of a soundstage. But yeah, like you're saying, whatever. I do find it creepy that the kids are like, whatever. Can we keep playing around the graves of our parents?
Okay, so this is where we get into bad art, right? Okay, so what is bad art? Art is bad when it doesn't tell the truth. And to wit, obviously a bunch of kids, it never really gets too much into the explanation, but it seems to just be that the kids are just being seduced by this space ghost, like into wanting to do their will. It doesn't have any more explanation than that, than just like, well, he's convinced them. But it's like, well, that doesn't really make sense because all the kids are being convinced at the same time to do this, and none of them have any regrets. None of them have any trepidation. Everyone's on board. It doesn't really buy it. It's not good writing, which is again why I'm saying like it just takes a little bit of he's controlling them. He's mind controlling them. Here, you want to know a great parallel? The game TNG, right?
Yes, that's the video game one where I liken it to cell phone addiction with the Wesley Crusher and the you have to catch a ball with a scoop. I remember that. Yeah,
right. So it's the point being that everyone didn't go into the game because because it just felt really good, right? It was
Right.
mind controlling them. It was completely changing their ability to reason. It wasn't just like, oh, this feels really good, don't you want to do it more? You know?
Well, but that's part of the problem. This is poor writing. I think you're more forgiving because of the more macabre aspects of this type of thing. I found that the kids in it were tiring. To go through it, this to me reminds me a little bit of The Village of the Damned more, with the corrupted children by evil, or even the Twilight Zone's It's a Good Life in a sense, although that's one person like controlling people and destroying the entire planet Earth. I don't know. It just the idea of the kids being tortured and then they're controlling this angel with that really insipid chant that's based off of Ring Around the Rosies, which I can't stand. That fire, that thing. It just really drives me crazy. I just don't think it conveys its message very well. The concept, I will give you, the concept of children being controlled by a malevolent alien force to take over, to allow this force to come force into the universe again, it's intriguing. It's just not well carried out here. I'll even tell you, they're all trying to figure out what's going on. And my question to you is Nurse Chapel a bitch when she says, let me give you a bad surprise to the little kid?
There, now, Stevie. There are unpleasant surprises as well as pleasant ones. Shut up, Nurse Chapel, you bitch!
Or what?
No, I thought she actually was doing pretty well with kids. I thought that it was nice that she was,
Here's a bad surprise? I don't know.
No, I mean, again, she's just being...
Would you do that to your daughter?
No, of
hey,
course
Dad,
not.
I wanted chocolate ice cream. No, here, have hot lava instead. That's not what I wanted. Well, they're bad surprises, too. That's not a surprise, you jackass. I don't like it. And,
All I'm saying is I don't really like it when, and I'm seeing this now as a young parent or a parent of a young child, I'm not a young parent. I don't like it when parents talk really down to their children, where they're treating them like they're slow or they're stupid. It's like, no, honey, you can't do that. Do you know what I mean?
You see.
Like,
yeah, you got to save that for their teenage years. That's
I'm sure, but the point is, like, it's like, kids, they're smarter than you probably think. Just speak to them.
They're very smart,
right? Just talk to them like they're normal.
Yeah, they're just they don't have the same experience as we all do. That's the main difference, and they're basically empty vessels that we have to fill in with information. That's what we're here for. That's why we're out here. Except it's not risk, it's what we do every day. The job that you can never quit, parenting. Yeah. But let me just tell you, when this story was first assigned, Roddenberry gave it to what was known as an unreliable writer. That's this Edward Lasco. Originally, it started off with a mass suicide and a lot more darkness where the kids were, like, terrified and afraid. But NBC said, yeah, I don't know if that's such a good idea. We have, if you running in the background, Freiberger hired Marvin Belli, the non-actor, to be a character, taking away a job from an actual paid actor.
Yeah.
Oh, also, that kind of reminds me of Pennywise from It. Also, the bad guy in this.
Why?
Well, because it's like manipulating children again.
Well, Pennywise didn't manipulate children.
Well, in a way.
No, he didn't. He killed them.
Well, he killed them, but he manipulated them into coming over to, like, eat them, wouldn't he?
He manipulated one, Henry Bowers, the bully, into being his agent, but that was pretty tenuous. Pennywise is a very interesting villain. Pennywise, what is the gender of Pennywise?
Yes, a spider.
Female spider. A female spider who is pregnant and is eating because she's trying to protect her young.
You know how them female spiders are.
I'm just saying, Pennywise is an interesting character.
No, he is. She is. Whatever it is. But this had 9 rewrites by Lasco. 9.
Why? It seems like a straightforward story. What were they futzing around with?
It's not. It was either too dark or too draggy or not Star Trekky enough, so they had to redo it 9 times. Then 1 rewrite by the story editor, Arthur Singer, and Freiberger threw his hand on it. Now, Lasko wasn't inexperienced. He worked on Wild Wild West. He did 33 episodes of a show called Combat. He was also a major consultant on Charlie's Angels in the 70s. But this was just not that good, or not his cup of tea, in my opinion. He wanted a script where children were manipulated by evil. I'm talking about Lasko here. Rod Mary wanted a straight drama, and he saw this as a drama, and he said, I'll buy it without looking at it even further. So that's why there was a problem with the stories from the get-go. So it was just considered a terrible story. Here's a question, though, from the beginning. What's the name of the bad guy? Do you know?
No, Landru.
No, Landru.
I know it's not Landru.
Do not make fun of our Lord and Savior Landru. But what's the name of the bad guy?
I have no idea.
Exactly, that's a problem. You don't know about it until Kirk, out of his ass, says the name Gorgon. That's what his name is. Where did he get that name from? I don't know.
I mean, again,
Exactly.
Okay, so obviously in the rewrites something got missed, right?
Yes.
But I'm also just like, whatever. I don't care. It's fine.
Well, but it's not fine. How dare you have an opinion?
Bonk on the head. Bonk, bonk.
No,
Just saying, it's
I gotcha.
not a big deal. I like the idea of like dead space pirates. I like the idea of there being history far before any of us at like the Federation got there. And here's another thing.
Great.
I really like the ending when they just jumping around a little bit when they defeat Gorgon and he hugs the kids. McCoy comes in and says, hey, we can help them now. It really struck home that the Federation, above all, is a humanitarian organization more than the other space forces. That they really are there to... Their line is, we used to be bad. Humanity used to be bad. We are making up for that now, in that our default is humanitarianism, is utilitarianism, is being kind, is being charitable, is helping people who need, like kind of being the superheroes of the universe, of the galaxy.
Yes. You mean kind of like, world police, if you will. Yes, that's the idea behind the Federation, is to help where we're asked, not just to bump in, or butt in, rather. This, though, again, I just don't like the way it's executed. I mean, when the kids finally summon the demon with like hail, hail, fire and snow, call the angel, he will know. I didn't like that whole bit. I also don't particularly like the outfit of Gorgon, which we don't know his name of. Just as an aside, Marvin Belli tried to ad-lib his lines, and the director said, what are you doing? Because I figured I'd just ad-lib, like I'm in a courtroom. And the guy's like, no, read the script, please. So that actually slowed them down.
Not, it was not
that good actor.
Well, no, I was going to say that it certainly didn't look like Space Marauder. But here's the thing: are we being smarter? Sorry, are the writers smarter than we're giving them credit for? Right?
No.
No, just listen, because what happens at the end? His face melts away.
That's the best part of the entire episode 100%. For that.
But the point is he just looking like what he'd think children would follow?
That's
older,
a good point.
White-haired, avuncular king dressed in fairy tale clothing. Is his true form as a marauder from an ancient dead race gross,
something
rotting,
horrific,
something completely alien that would not make sense to us to even behold?
That's a great idea. It's just not hit upon. That's you adding in your own stuff in there, which I don't mind. I think that's great.
It doesn't take too much creativity to come to that conclusion, based on, because then what's the deal with what was going on with the end? Then why was his face?
No, I agree. No, I think that's actually perfect. He was losing his agency, or actually his power, through the strength of his kids, like God's losing without any followers, like Apollo losing his powers because he had no followers anymore. What did you think of their psychic control, the kids' psychic control of the crew? I don't like the fist pumping, You could make many bizarre comments about that, as other
we
YouTube
all
channels
thought about
have.
what that looked like.
Yeah.
That might have been the weakest part, and I'll tell you why.
Mm. Go ahead.
Okay. I thought that it was kind of, I thought that like the consequences of that were kind of cool. The concept of like, we just beamed some dudes into space.
If we're not orbiting Triachus, the men I beamed down are dead. Captain, we are no longer orbiting Triachus.
That
Which-
was the freakiest thing.
I
You
know.
would think the controls would say, like, hey, there's nothing down there. You could look at that two ways, that the people controlled, or the kids controlled everyone on the ship at this moment, so no one realized they were beaming them into space, or the
right again,
machine
kind of
doesn't
weak.
have it.
But my whole
Yeah.
thing was that it would have
That's
been
scary,
it would have
actually.
been cool if he was like, beam them back right now, right?
Yeah.
And they come back because newsflash, you can actually be in space for a while before dying.
A
Because
minute.
well, yeah, because there's no even though it's there's no heat. There's also no medium to transfer heat. There's no wind and there's no liquid, so the heat's not going to actually leach off your body too quickly. So the point is that it would be cool if they had rushed to beam them back, and like one of them was dead and frozen, the other was barely alive.
Yeah, you tell me how it goes.
I mean, I'm not about to. But yeah, that was weak because it's just like, well, if you have that level of control and you're able to manipulate their ability to perceive, why are you even having any subterfuge? Just make them all think they're on a tropical island and just take control of the ship or something,
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I mean, they do take over the ship rather quickly. I think though the weakest part is on the bridge with Sulu seeing flying swords. That I hate the most. The second I see this episode's on, let's say it's on HNI TV in New York and other areas in the northeast of the U.S., that's all I think about is the swords in space. I think that it was supposed to be missiles. Why they picked swords, I have no idea.
I mean,
It's just...
probably, I'll tell you why, because I think that missiles would be too abstract to show. It's like, what would a missile look like coming at you? It would look like a dot.
And why would there be swords in outer space? And why would
I
the
mean, it's a
swordsmith Sulu...
Well, it's a nightmare, and also we've seen Sulu fence before. I mean, I'm sure that's
Yeah, I'm just not buying him in outer space. I like, though, how there's a lot of overacting, especially by Shatner. I do like the confrontation with Scotty and auxiliary control. I think that's probably the best scene of confrontation between those being taken over and those not yet taken over.
I will not disobey an order from the bridge.
You are disobeying an order from the bridge. Now step aside.
You're losing control of yourself, sir. Not yet.
Where he just basically fighting his own crewmen.
Yeah.
But when
I love
Kirk
Scotty,
and Spock
man.
getting
I love
there?
that he just doesn't kick any shit.
No, he gets down there, but, they take him over too, but Kirk and Spock entering into control after Kirk loses command of his ship. That's probably some of the worst Shatner acting, I think, in the entire series.
Losing the Enterprise.
Losing command.
I'm losing the Enterprise. Ship is hang on. I'm alone. I'm losing command.
Where he's freaking out, giving orders on the bridge. Mr. Leslie doesn't understand what he's saying. Uhura sees she's like dying old and alone. Spock, for some reason, is questioning orders, and, well, I just don't. The way it was carried out again, I just don't like the way it was done. Kirk freaking out in the elevator. I don't know. I don't. What did you think of their little freakouts? Did you like it, or?
I thought it was cool. I mean, I'm a big Freddy Krueger fan.
Mm-hmm.
And, I like a major part of Freddy was always like turning your own fears against you. I always like motifs like that in different film and television, where it's just like, okay,
Right.
What is each individual person's nightmare, it's actually, again, you see all these little echoes of pop culture that infiltrate. So did you ever read The Illustrated Man?
I read it a long time ago. I mean, it's the Ray Bradbury one.
Ray
correct?
Bradbury anthology story and the wraparound tale is that a young man is trekking, on a long hike throughout the country, and this tattooed man comes and shares his campsite, and he says that his tattoos tell the future, and that there's a blank patch, and that if a man stares into it, he sees how he's going to die, and if a woman stares into it, she sees herself, what she's going to look like old. And it's just like, yeah. So the concept of like the worst fear for a woman is to see her beauty fade. That's a very old concept in fiction. Nothing that it just show usually by male artists, my male writers who are like, oh, obviously the worst thing that could ever happen, right?
Right, but I didn't like that either. I was like, every time I see that, I was trying to figure out when did the mirror appear on the bridge console. But that's minor. By the way, the summoning circle was created by Robert Justman. He was also really gung ho on the script because he thought he would be taking over for Roddenberry, and then when he found out that Freiberger came on in, he was like, all right. So
right.
Yeah, that's one of the other things in there. Also, there was no mind control when the kids first come onto the ship in the original script. That was suggested by Freiberger, actually.
No, it's good because it created a threat, right?
Yes.
Without
right.
that, I don't know what the peril would be.
Yeah, no, it was. It just wasn't. Though again, I wasn't really impressed with the story. In fact, neither were a lot of other people. But here's something interesting that NBC told Freiberger. They didn't want it to be too scary because they did a poll, and NBC's poll said that women don't like outer space. I don't know what the hell that means. Ask your wife, honey, do you like outer space? And see what she says. I mean, I don't know what the hell.
I guess I've been dealing with a different breed of lady in my time, because most of the women I know in my life are quite into space. I remember one time I was dating this very brilliant writer who was at Popular Science, and she's very quiet. And I was trying to, get to know her more. We were not like we were. I knew her very well, but like, we just had these dead patches, and I was trying to get her to kind of open up more. And then one time I asked her about space, and boy, howdy, did she go on and on. And I was like, this is great. I got to ask her about space every time.
Well, did you co-opt your wife into loving the Trek? I did that to mine. My wife quoted the Borg in legal papers. So, I mean,
that's pretty funny. No, Crystal, my lady she likes sci-fi. She likes all tales. You know what I mean? Like, she just has a very good sense of narrative. I don't know if she would necessarily say that sci-fi is one of her favorite genres.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I've shown her Trek. She likes it enough. In fact, what am I saying? The first date at our place, which was our third date, I showed her Star Trek: The Undiscovered Country. Not The Undiscovered Country, sorry. The Voyage Home.
Oh.
It's a good one to introduce people to.
That's good. Well, it beats The Motionless Picture, even though that's actually quite good. I do find it humorous, though. Roddenberry, when he was talking, he had written like one of the memos he had written off where, how everyone expects children to be sweet and innocent, but Roddenberry wrote in that children are known to be pretty vicious little animals until they grow up and start taking tranquilizers, marijuana, alcohol, or whatever it is necessary to change them from unpredictable amorality to predictable morality. It's like, wow, you got a real twisted sense there, Gene.
Did he have kids?
Yes, he did. Rod Roddenberry actually is the executive producer of New Trek, which says a lot, considering he's actually said, I never understood why everyone liked my father on his show. And if you see what he's been producing, you would have to agree to that. I think he's secretly trying to destroy the thing that his dad was involved in. Although the O-Toy productions that he does, that he's involved in, is fantastic. Everyone should check out the O-Toy productions.
What is that?
O-Toy Productions, they made this video, which is based off of an IDW comic, where they used a AI to kind of graft William Shatner onto another actor. It's actually brilliant. I'll put a link on it. In fact, the director occasionally comes into another channel that we're friends with, UK Danger Man. I was there just last week. And Robin Curtis actually was in there, and I've met Robin.
Wait,
and
you're
I've
talking about
worked with Robin.
Unification?
Yeah, Unification. That's
yeah,
it.
no, that was beautiful. Robin Curtis did
Isn't
a great
it?
job. And, yeah, no, I mean, Jesus Christmas. You prepared to cry your little eyes out. I sure did.
Oh,
But
it's
my goodness,
it's
what a beautiful,
brilliant.
beautiful tale. Anyone going through, a
Lost?
partner, lost, facing the prospect of your own mortality, reminiscing about death. I mean, it's like, I don't know. It's a fairy tale. Who knows if we go on, but it's certainly a beautiful and very grounded representation of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Well, but getting back to our story, one of the other problems Freiberger was running into is that there was an existing Trek architecture, if you will, or structure, where with people checking for close to scientific accuracy and things, and so DeForest Research was giving them crap, like they didn't like the way the ship was hovering and the special effects. One of the things that was pointed out that they had there is because the original script had Spock smiling, by the way. Lasco
smiling at what?
just smiling in general.
That's
Lasco
strange.
had a line, evil seeks to maintain power by suppression of truth, and which is what he said, and that's totally unscientific attitude for Mr. Spock to say. That's a superstitious metaphysician, which is true. And that's what this is.
But wait, no,
Yeah.
no, hold on, freeze.
Mhm.
Vulcans are spiritual.
That he's scientific, not spiritual.
No,
They're
no,
not
you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. They
Spock
have,
is not. That's not what the script has at that time. You're going to implant in something else. You're implanting from the motion picture forward. That's not here.
there's nothing from this
No.
point before that states that Vulcans cannot adhere to spirituality or metaphysical ruminations. Just because they believe in logic to solve their everyday problems and live their life by, it doesn't mean that it precludes them from having philosophies about the unseen and the unknown.
But, Counselor, you're asking me to argue a negative, which I can't do. I can only argue what we have before us, and
But
before us on the
nothing-
record, nothing's there.
No.
So if
but
it's
nothing-
not there, it's not
no,
there.
No, but no, just because it's happening for the first time doesn't mean that it was contradicting anything.
But for a pure scientist such as Spock, that is metaphysical. So that's
not
what they were
true.
pointing
That's
out.
like saying that it would. Albert Einstein could have been. He was spiritual.
No, that's not it. That you got to keep in mind within the script Bible, there are certain things and certain truths that the story has, and that's what DeForest Research was having.
My whole thing with Spock is he is, again, I've gone on this rant a bunch of times. Vulcans are a race of people who have extreme emotions and extreme passions, and they made a decision culturally to live a life that doesn't act on those.
But that is not metaphysical.
But it has nothing to do with it. It's got nothing to do with it. I'm telling you that
exactly.
But his embracing of logic has as much to do with his view of spirituality as what kind of food he likes. It has nothing to do with anything. He could be completely spiritual and it wouldn't interfere with his logic at all.
But he's not spiritual a person at all, as the script Bibles and the show Bibles point out, that he's pure logic and pure science.
We're going
and
around in
that's
circles here.
and that's
Logic
the
and
exact
science are
opposite
not
of
the
it.
same thing.
Exactly. But I understand that, but it doesn't. It's also they're not also metaphysical either, which sometimes usually are illogical types of things to explain stuff. Also, force of evil. It's a phrase that Spock says. It's a Spockian error of logic, personification of abstraction. So they had a lot of issues, and there was a lot of back and forth on this. It was later pointed out, and this is a quote from DC Fontana, Fred Freiberger and Arthur Singer had never done a science fiction show. Freiberger had just come off of Iron Horse, a period western starring Dale Robinson. The show failed. Neither he nor Singer really understood science fiction. It was not a western or cop show in SF disguise. One member of the crew even told me Singer had come down to the transponder set, looked around and said, "What does this thing do again?" Basic Star Trek, but not understood. that was the problem. The producer and the writers didn't know science fiction. They knew what they knew. Sounds again vaguely familiar, like New Trek, which is the New Trek people seem to know Buffy the Vampire Slayer and teen dramas rather than science fiction, and seem to be more interested in magic and Star Wars than Star Trek. So that's the similar sort of problem here. That's why Freiberger called this show Tits in Space, if you recall from our last episode. So right over here, this is where I think it becomes to drag into what's going on. As we go through our story, after Kirk loses command and is chased it out all over the place, they kind of figure that they have a way to. It's the kids that are doing it. When they confront Chekhov, Kirk suddenly gets an idea and goes to the bridge. It's where they play the audio tape of the summoning of the Gorgon, and this is the first time Kirk says the Gorgon.
Play back the chant the children sang to summon up the Gorgon.
That's where they confront our bad guy. What did you think of that type of thing where they had it? Did you like it, or
What do you
kind of, because we're running towards the end, basically? Because to me, this is a short story. They capture these people, or actually bring the people aboard. They inadvertently bring the monster on board with them. Kirk, realizing his demon is gone now, that he realizes he's not losing command, and they summon the Gorgon on the bridge, where you have your final confrontation. What did you think of the way they just Kirk 180'd and did that? He's like, I'm afraid. Nah, I got it. I'm fine.
Yeah, again, I feel like there could have been more explanation as to why Kirk was able to resist. Again, it very similar to Star Trek V, where it's just like, well, everyone else is kind of weak except me.
Right.
A little underwritten. I will say a little underwritten, but at the same time, I feel it's fascinating watching this whole series with you, Captain, because it really makes you understand what kind of things are offensive to you as a lover of art, one person as a lover of art. And I realize I think that I am more forgiving of things that are a little underwritten, that you can kind of guess the meaning of or make your own headcanon for, as opposed to things that are overwritten, where it's like every 5 seconds there's a new plot twist and a new emotion and a new scene that goes nowhere. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. No, I got you. Then we should probably revisit the ones where you said this went nowhere, like, the immunity syndrome with the space amoeba, because then you have your own headcanon to correct that, right, Mike?
No, not quite.
That was underwritten, if I recall from your review.
It was, but like, for instance, what was that stupid thing where they're time traveling and the military people cannot get on the plane, get on the Enterprise?
Oh, you mean Tomorrow is Yesterday?
Yeah, that was overwritten, where every 5 seconds something else was happening.
That's first season. I agree with you. It's also DC's first script. But yeah, no, I agree with you. Well,
anyway, come on.
What did you think of the ending? I actually like the best with the melting face. That was done over several shots from Marvin Bella. I kept changing his face. But they basically make the kids cry, and they chase the Gorgon away, and they go back to Starbase, 4, I believe it is, to repatriate the kids with, I guess, social services or something. But did they make the kids cry and realize that their parents are dead, and that they probably need their parents. And,
which, again, underwritten. It could have used
it was totally underwritten. Something.
A science solution, right? Because,
Yep.
again, well, the kids already knew that their parents were dead. So what? Just just reminding them and rubbing it in was what made them change. Like, it doesn't really make any sense. But
I don't.
If they
I
were
don't
like,
the
okay,
fact.
they're transmitting on this thing. Let's hit this. Let's make our own counter signal, and it's going to change how it's perceived. And now the kids are going to realize what's going on.
Well, and then you also have that problem. So if you could play an audio tape to summon this creature, I don't know, that kind of loses something there as well. It kind of downplays their need for a summoning circle at all, or for some reason. The computer can simulate that. It's just like what you were saying. There's no signal. There's no connection. It's just too easy to defeat it. I think they were running out of time in the direction of this thing, although they did come on under budget, so there's that. But before we come to that, that's pretty much the end. They defeat the Gorgon and a head warp factor too, and that's pretty much about it. Before we get to ratings and how much this cost, I just want to go over some of the people in this, like the older one over there. Do you like the older child in this?
What? What older
The older kid, the tall redhead. Did you like him?
Like the leader,
the child, the lead child.
He's fine. As far
Yeah.
I mean, I thought the child acting was fine.
Yeah, the child acting actually was, I thought, pretty good. But your lead child over there, Tommy, he was also Peter Kirk. That's his brother's son in that Operation Annihilate. That's the thing with the space blobs taking over the planet, where they would have to kill the whole planet. You actually like that episode. It's the end of season 1. Yeah. So he was good. But Craig Huxley, also known as Craig Hundley, he also was a teen jazz musician that won several awards. And currently he has a music studio called the Enterprise Studio, and you're actually familiar with his work, even though you may not realize it.
Go on.
He refined the musical device called the Blaster Beam, and it's most famous for Star Trek the Motion Picture, the Veecher sound. He created that.
Huh.
So that's actually pretty cool. The other woman, Pamela Ferdin, that's Mary, who had a crush on William Shatner. She was actually the original voice of Lucy from the Snoopy's cartoon.
You do think I'm beautiful, don't you, Charlie Brown?
Peanuts. I think that's actually pretty funny.
Well,
She actually said she was so enamored with William Shatner, she asked him to marry her. And he said, he asked her to marry him. And she said, I'll marry you after high school. And he gave her like a cigar ring. He realized that she had a crush on him, but was very nice to each other. The kid who got the crappy ice cream, that's Caesar Belli. That's his dad. That's Marvin Belli's kid. He later became an attorney, just like his dad.
Huh.
Mark Brown, that's the African-American kid. He was in Andy Griffith, a whole bunch of show, but is more famous for doing commercials like for Wonder Bread, McDonald's, Three Musketeers, and he was basically a voiceover actor for a while in various different things. Professor Starnes, who you see for like 10 seconds, he did so many plays and so forth. He received an MBE from the Queen of England. That's the most excellent order of the British Empire. And Marvin Belli, the actor, more like an attorney. Everyone's asking, a lot of the staff or a lot of the crew and a lot of the actors were bitter of the fact.
As you believe, so shall you do. So shall you do.
James Doohan didn't like the fact that he was there. They didn't like him, but the reason why Freiberger hired Marvin Belli is because he said, quote, well, attorneys are actors. They act. So they could act on TV. What do you think, Mike? Are you an actor?
Yes, great.
The real reason why Freiberger hired Belli is for the notoriety, because he was big in the paper, mainly for defending Jack Ruby, the killer of the killer.
Wow.
Yes, so he defended Jack Ruby. He was also the attorney to Mae West, Errol Flynn, Zsa Zsa Gabor, Muhammad Ali, and some small rock group called the Rolling Stones.
Never heard of them.
And yeah, exactly. And what was funny is Marvin Belli said at the end he was having a drink with F. Lee Bailey, also an attorney of note, and they were seeing whose ego was bigger. And Marvin said, I'll bet you money that someone will recognize me before you. And as they were sitting there having a drink, a guy came over and goes, aren't you Marvin Belli? Oh, how do you know me? From defending Jack Ruby? No, I saw you on Star Trek.
Sure.
That's how it came in. But anyway, that's where we're at. So that's the end of the story. How much do you think this cost in $1968, Mike?
Oh boy, let's see here. You're saying that it was going in a budget. Kids don't really cost that much. They were using all existing sets except for one day of exteriors. $179,000.
Close. $176,349 in 1968. And in 2025, that's $1,637,045.74. It's the first episode not to go over budget. So because of that, they decided to have Marvin Chomsky come back as the director.
All
Just
right.
as an aside, the place where they were having ice cream also doubled as a school, and everyone was like excited. All the kids and all the other extras were like, "Wow!" The ones that they hired, like Marvin Belli, they were all a little disappointed to find out that none of the computers were actually real.
Oh,
So,
well.
but
Welcome
you know, what are you
welcome
gonna?
to the real world, kids.
Yeah, exactly. Roddenberry actually did not like this. He hated it. Eddie Paskey said that I don't know how much Freddie Freiberger had to do with this script, but some of these scripts were crap, including this one from the third season. They all hated it. So you are definitely in the minority.
I guess so. I don't know what the problem is. Let's get to the rating. You're going to roll your eyes probably.
Yeah, well, I'm going to let you go first, and then you tell me what it is on a very scientific 1 to 10 scale. Mike, what are you going to give? And the children shall lead.
Let me just take this here, okay? Let's just go down. 1. Concept. Interesting, yes. Unique, yes. Aped by other successful people in Hollywood and literature, yes. Wait, okay. I meant to ask you this before. Village of the Damned came out before or after this?
Before.
Okay, all right. So maybe it owes something to that. But still, cool horror concept. Acting is good. Stakes are high. A couple of poor crewmen got beamed out to nowhere. You're dealing with some aspects of mutiny between the crew and the officers. The officers trying to keep control. The kid acting isn't bad. The threat is scary and unique. It has an origin. A little underwritten, but Captain, you're gonna flip your lid. I'm giving this a 7 out of 10.
Wow, that's a very high rating over there. I'm going to give it a 2 out of 10.
Why?
Can't...
What do you hate about this episode? Because here's the thing: in our entire conversation, you never told me something that you hated.
I hate the kids concept. I don't like the. Yeah, I consistently say the same. I just don't like them. I don't believe that they're under control. I don't like the hand movements where they take over the ship. I don't like the flying swords. I just don't like the way it's executed. I don't feel like it's a comfortable Star Trek show.
Here's the thing: everything that you're saying are details.
I guess I'm being more metaphysical about it, then, aren't I?
I
just don't like. I don't like
details.
But when you take a whole bunch of small details and you stack them on top of each other, I don't like it. I think it's between the draggy music, the lighting. I don't like the overhammy acting of Shatner. I don't like the idea, I guess from the beginning, from the concept of the fake set onwards, and its pacing, I just don't like it. I don't find it interesting. I find it rather dull in some spaces. I do like the concept of the idea of an alien force taking over the kids to take over the Enterprise, but I sort of kind of already saw that in Charlie X, although he did act on his own. And we did see kids. Well, I would say he did take over the Enterprise.
I know.
And,
okay, go on.
It's almost Q-like. I don't know. I had bad feelings of, reminded me a little bit of Miri with the kids, although, again, not the same story. I don't know. I find this to be worse than Spock's brain in some instances, probably because it doesn't feel science fiction-y. It feels more horror-based, I guess. I don't know. I was bored.
Horror, but I mean, like,
I know.
It definitely seems science fiction-y. I don't get it.
It didn't convey its story. It didn't convey itself to me. It didn't. I just don't like it. I can't put my finger more than to say that the little things in it mean a lot, and the little things in it just really tire me out. I don't like the way. I think it's more like when I hear that sad music in there, it just drags me down. I think that's part of it as well. The atmosphere of it. The acting could be better. I don't know. It was a little bit fast in some places, but slow in its overall execution. So for me, it's still going to be a 2 out of 10. I just don't like it. I'm actually surprised.
Your opinion. Again, it's strange. It's very rare that we're this far off from each other.
Well, I don't. Well, I actually like the immunity syndrome, and you hated it.
And you know what? Sometimes I do think it's a question of, like, because I do love horror and I do love suspense, and I I mean, listen, we ranked our second season favorites. One of your bottom five was Cat's Paw, which is one of my top five. So yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, what are you going to do? That's why we make horse races, counselor. Anyway, that's the end of this one. Coming up next is the return of Diana Muldaur in an episode called Is There No Truth in Beauty? It's notable for, well, basically helping Roddenberry sell that jewelry finally. But that's coming up on our next episode of Yelling at Gaseous Anomalies. As always, if you want to contact us, don't forget to email us at yellingatgas@gmail.com. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe and hit that bell notification on there. Mike, is there anything else you want to add to this at all? Or
No, I thought it was a good episode. I'm thankful that you showed it to me. And as always, Captain, love traversing the galaxy. We're making our way through season 3. Then we have the animated series after that.
Yes, I'm looking forward to eventually hitting the animated series, and we'll see what your opinion is of Is There No Truth in Beauty? More of a navigational issue. That's part of the sci-fi of that episode. And also to see Diana Muldaur again. But as always, everyone, we look forward to hearing from you all out there. Live long and prosper, and we'll see you out there.
Death to you all. Death to you all.
Bonk, bonk on the head.